Welcome to week 6 day 14 class of Selenium Java online training. Today we are going to mainly discuss about Selenium grid. I hope you all remember from our previous discussions what component Selenium grid is and what is its purpose. Can anyone tell me that? To switch between different browsers. Anything else anyone would like to add? You are partially right. Executing different browsers on different OS at the same time. Okay. Fine. Yes, Selenium grid is one of the components of the Selenium test automation tool, and it basically allows the RC or the WebDriver component to scale the test suites to be executed on multiple environments. The execution could be done in any order, simultaneously or sequentially, that is up to you, but the purpose is mainly to execute multiple same test suite in multiple environments in parallel, so that we could leverage the power provided to us by the Selenium grid component and save quite a good amount of time. Selenium grid basically provide us multiple instances of Selenium WebDriver which are running on different operating systems with different browser configuration. So whatever systems or whatever environments and browsers we want to execute our test suite on, they all are registered to one common system which is known as a hub. Okay, so we have a system, a common system which is known as a hub where the grid is running. And then we have different, we call them nodes which are basically other machines with same or different operating systems, browsers, and one machine plus one browser instance is known as a node. Okay, you can have the same machine, say you have a hub and you have machine 1 plus Firefox, that is equal to your node 1. You could have the same machine 1 plus IE, that could be equal to your node 2. Okay, so the node is basically the instance of browser plus the operating system. So whenever the test is started, they are basically sent to the main hub. The hub basically checks the test has asked for what capabilities. Okay, so the tests are sent to the hub. When they start getting executed from the hub basically checks what capabilities, that is what machine browser configuration has the test requested. Accordingly, the hub directs that test to that particular machine and browser instance if it is already registered and launched and running. The test is then executed on that machine and that browser. Okay, and we can do this whole thing in parallel, so theoretically it takes only as long as to run the longest individual test. Okay, so it saves a lot more amount of time. To know more about the grid, you all can visit this link. I'll just share it on your chat windows. Okay, so it is a very nice article about the grid, and there are very quick steps as to It's a very good reference point. Very quickly you can start your grid and register your nodes and run your test on. Okay, so nice article. You all can open it simultaneously. The other thing which you all have to do now is download this Selenium server. If not already done, go to seleniumhq.org.download. Here the Selenium server 2.42.2, I believe we downloaded it on the day we started the Selenium. If not yet downloaded, download this server, okay, and save it at a location. So meanwhile your download happens, just a second please. So as your download is happening, let us have a diagrammatic representation and understand it again. What do we mean by a hub and a node? So hub is the central system, the system where the grid has started its execution, and then these are different nodes which could be the same machine as the hub, or usually they are the different machines, okay, with an operating system and a browser configuration. Operating system and a browser configuration. Okay, and they all get registered to this common hub. The tests are received in this hub, which are then directed according to the specification mentioned to that particular machine where the test should get executed. Okay, so is there any question about the theoretical concept of grid and hub and nodes? Then let me know. Any doubts in here? Hello, is my voice audible to all of you? Okay, any queries so far from the theoretical point of view? Then we would start executing with the hub. Okay, great. So here I have downloaded and my Selenium server is available here. Okay, it's an executable jar file. So I will start doing step by steps, different actions for the hub. The first thing is we have to basically start the hub. That is our first step. So let us do that. So I am going to the path where the hub is available. Okay, here this is your command prompt. You have to, on the command prompt you have to basically type in a command java-jar, the name of your Selenium server, and the important part in here is dash role followed by the text hub. Okay, so I'm copying this command, printing it here. Okay, and when I do this, my Selenium server grid would start its running. Okay, now this is right now running in a hub mode. Okay, great. So the next thing is the hub will automatically start up using the port 4444 by default. To change this default port, we can add an optional parameter dash port when we run the command. Okay, so in case 4444 is occupied in your machine or you are not able to run, then here you basically say dash port and whatever different port number you want to start your execution on. Okay, this would start execution on 55 port, this would provide you the execution on the 44 port, okay, which is the default port. Okay, so either of this can do. Now we have to check whether the hub has started its execution or not. To do so, this is the URL which you have to visit. We basically have to open localhost colon followed by the port number followed by /grid followed by /console. Okay, here I did view config and it shows that the hub execution has started. Okay, so my Selenium grid is very much working. Here using this URL you can check in case you have changed the port number. So instead of localhost 4444, your port number will change to whatever port number you gave when you started the execution of the grid in the hub mode. Now once my hub has been started, this is what my screen should look like. Here my hub is waiting for some commands to happen, and here the hub information is available on the browser on the localhost port 4444, which I can visualize. The next step is to register the nodes with the hub and to start them. That is my next step. So regardless of whether we want to run the grid with the new WebDriver functionality or grid with RC functionality or both at the same time, we are going to use the same Selenium server standalone jar file to start the nodes. Okay, to start the nodes, the command is java-jar Selenium server standalone .jar. Now the role has changed to node. Okay, and -hub, we provide the hub details where the node should get registered to. Okay, so using this command you can register the node to your machine, to the hub, sorry. So let us do that. Let us register the node to our machine. So I'm going to open a second command window. I'm going to traverse to my driver jar file. Okay, so it says that launching a Selenium node, okay, and then registering the node to the hub wherever our hub is available. So let us check our registration now. Okay, So these are the different browsers at the RC and at the WebDriver level, okay, and this is the configuration which is received. By default the node registers to the port 5555, okay. So these are the details made available for the hub, and these are the browsers using which the execution could be done. So I have Chrome, Firefox and Internet Explorer, okay. The maximum instances which can be by default executed with the hub is 5. Okay, so 5 different nodes could be registered and the execution could be done. So our grid has started and our node has been registered. So what is the next step? Is it all making sense to you? Is there any queries? Is my screen visible to all of you? You can see what all we are doing. Okay, great. Just stop me whenever you think there is a question and you want some discussion to be done. Let me know. Feel free to do that. Okay, so now the third step is to configure these nodes. So for running the test in Selenium Grid, Selenium WebDriver test needs to use the instance of the remote driver and the desired capability classes to basically define which browser, version and platform the tests will be executed on. Okay. Now based on the preferences set in the desired capabilities instance, the hub will point the test to a node that matches these preferences. So the first is we are going to configure the node for the Firefox. At the script level, we will be introducing this statement: desired capabilities is equal to new desired capabilities dot and capability dot set browser name, in bracket we are going to pass Firefox. Okay. So at the script level, this is the line which we would be introducing. At the command line, so that our test would be running on a Firefox browser on this machine, I have to register my node for that instance of browser. So I say the role should be node, the hub point is 4444 dash browser name equal to Firefox dashboard 5555. This is how I am going to register my Firefox node upon. So let us register the node first. Here, so the previous internal node registration I stopped, and I'm going to close this command prompt, and I have registered my WebDriver for just the Firefox version. Yeah, that's what I did. The first node which we have registered was a generic node. Okay. No, I want to specifically direct my, because I'm going to register more than one node. Okay. Okay, so let me go back a bit. The first node which I registered was the generic node for this machine, okay, to the hub. So that's why it showed me the instance of Chrome, Firefox and IE which this machine had. But I'm going to execute my test on IE separate, on Firefox separate. So there are going to be two nodes from the same machine I'm going to register to this hub. Okay, so that when my test is direct to the hub understands, okay, you have to direct it to the IE or you have to direct to the Firefox browser. So I killed the generic node okay, and I specifically registered for the browser Firefox. Is this clear to all of you? So now my Firefox execution is available and the port is 5555 on which it is listening. But we have to configure our test. So I am taking a very simple test of iterating the web table. I hope you all remember iterating the web table on the very first page of the products on the demo site. Okay, so on that simple test I'm going to execute the same test on two different browsers, IE and Firefox. So this is the test which will get executed with Firefox. So let us have a look at what will be getting changed. So here is my initialization of different variables that you will be using. At the before there is a change. Here we are introducing desired capabilities is equal to desired capabilities dot Firefox, and driver has now to be initialized as remote web driver, not the Firefox driver. It has to now initialize as remote web driver, wherein it is pointing to register itself to this hub, okay, because the test will be directed to the hub and capability is passed. Okay, so capability is Firefox, and I have my base URL and I have my implicit weight which is introduced. The rest of the program looks same. So these are the two lines which get changed. We introduce a desired capability and make it to get with the Firefox, and we have our driver to initialize this remote web driver with the URL pointing to the local hub. Okay, and then the rest of the program looks just as the same. Is this clear to all of you? So let us start this execution. Let us check whether this particular node is working or not. So you could see the Firefox instance has started. Okay, and at the same time at the command prompt lot of action is visible. Okay, here at the command prompt you could see that it has started capabilities with the browser name, and then it is getting all this child elements which we have basically asking it to fetch. Okay, and my test execution has finished, and here is my result which is available. Okay, so whatever number of rows and columns it has found, it is printed on this console window. So this test has been executed not with the web driver but with the grid, wherein we have started the grid as a Selenium server in the hub mode. Then we have registered Selenium server as a node, and we have invoked the remote driver instance which is directed to the hub. The hub basically checks to which instance or browser machine configuration you want your test to get executed on. It is passed to that particular instance and execution is done. Okay, so this is clear to all of you, right? Any queries in here? Let me know. Any questions, anyone? Okay, so if there are no questions, let us move on. Okay, if you are registering multiple nodes, Yes, if you are registering multiple nodes, there are going to be different port numbers. We will be doing that shortly when we register the Internet Explorer. Okay, so now the next step is to register the Internet Explorer. So we have configured the node for the Firefox. Let us now configure the node for the Internet Explorer. At the script test level, we basically introduce the desired capabilities to now point to the IE capabilities. Okay, I create a IE capabilities object and say to be desired capabilities dot Internet Explorer, and I am now setting the capability property of security domain to have been introduced flakiness and ignore security domains property to be true. I hope you all remember why we do that. Can anyone tell me why we do that? So basically we set this property to true because from Internet 7 onwards the security has been tightened, and it has to ensure that all the zones, internet, intranet, secure site and not secure site, all these zones have got the same security domain enabled. If you do not want that particular thing to be taken care of, you basically introduce flakiness security domains to be true and ignore the security domains. Okay, so that is why we have this feature, and then we do this only. We invoke the driver object to become a new remote driver, and we pass on this hub information and IE capabilities. So this is done at the script level. At the node level, to register the node at the command prompt, we need this IE driver server. Okay, we all downloaded the IE driver server when we executed our test on the Internet Explorer. Okay, you can get hold of your IE driver server from this download section only. This Internet Explorer driver server, get hold of either 32-bit or 64-bit at your machine, specifications available. It is because I am not talking yet. I was just yeah, sorry, I was just downloading my iDriver server because I had the old one, so just downloading the latest. You are all able to hear me now. I see the smileys, good. So I'm getting hold of my iDriver server and I'm going to create my command. Okay, first in the notepad because it is going to be a very long command. So starting doing that. So I have to correct this path, IE driver server path, okay, to the path where my IE driver server is located, which is now this path. So I am changing it here. Okay, the next is the Selenium server, which is available at the same location. You can simply say IE driver server this and the location, but I'm just giving it the absolute path so that if I run it some other time and some changes happen, I should not be worried. Then here my node is getting registered to the hub. I have some information as Mac sessions, browser as Internet Explorer, platform as Windows. So this information is needed for Internet Explorer, and here is my port, which I am changing to 5556. Okay, so by default for the Firefox, since it was the first node, it took the 5555. For the second, I am specifically mentioning that I want the execution to start on 5556. Now let us move on to this path. I have opened the third command prompt instance, and I am going to the path where my driver is located. Here I am going to execute this command. So I am copying it. So now I am starting the execution of this command. 1 second. Okay, so the second node is registered as the browser. Let us check our grid console. Here now you get two different nodes. Okay, you all can see the screen. Okay, now let us go and make changes at the test level. So here is my second test for Internet Explorer. So at the before annotation, I have my desired capabilities to be set to Internet Explorer. Now this capabilities object set capability, I am ignoring the security domains. I'm initializing the new remote web driver, okay, and pointing it to the hub URL, passing the IE capabilities in here. Fine. And rest of I'm going to execute the same test. Rest of my tests look the same. I'm going to iterate through the web table and find the number of rows and columns. So let us execute this IE test. So I'm executing the test one by one. Okay, Deepti, I'll try and freeze my screen. I can understand that my internet is facing problem today, so maybe that is why the issue is there. So I will freeze the screen and then talk. Let me know if you want me to repeat anything. Sorry about that. Yes, I will repeat. Okay, anyways, test execution stopped, so let me see what the error is later. Let me repeat the steps. So configuring nodes for Internet Explorer. Okay, what part you want me to repeat? Till Firefox, is it clear? Everyone, till Firefox, is it clear? Deepti? Okay, great. So now we talk about Internet Explorer. Okay, so we have to first, like we did for Firefox, we have to first configure the node for the Internet Explorer. For that there are two steps. Okay, to configure the node there are always two steps. In your test which you want to run on that node, you have to introduce the desired capability instance, right? Here I want this test to run on the Internet Explorer browser. Okay, so I created the I capabilities pointing it to Internet Explorer, and I am setting the I capabilities property of ignoring security domains to true. Okay, and I am invoking a new remote WebDriver instance like we did for the Firefox, pointing it to the hub 4444 and passing the I capabilities. Okay, this part is done at the script level here in the before annotation. Is this clear, Deepti? Okay. You cannot see the test. I have highlighted the section in the before annotation. So this part clear to you? Okay. Now what I have done is, the second is, I have to configure my node. So to configure my node, I have to point the driver option to the Internet Explorer driver server. Okay, you can download the Internet Explorer driver server from the Selenium HQ download section. We did that when we executed our test on Internet Explorer a few days back, when we understood about desired capabilities. In that class we did it. So point your driver to Internet Explorer, then we are starting our Selenium server role in the node mode, pointing it to the hub at the localhost 4444. We provide something as max session 10, browser name as Internet Explorer, platform as Windows. And the port which are pointing to now is 5556. Okay. Is this command clear? Now this command I have copied and executed on a third command prompt window here. Is this clear, everyone? Deepti? Okay, great. So I'm going to simply test the execution on the Internet Explorer window. So the first instance failed because it basically timed out. So I'm trying the test again. There was this pop-up open at the Internet Explorer and it was not able to navigate. So I've closed the pop-up, which basically asks whether you want me to make IE as a default browser or not. I have said ask me later. So website is now open. Okay, so the test execution has been done. It has fetched the different it has traversed the table, as you can see here at the back end at the command prompt window. Okay, it has traversed the table. We will come to that, Bindu. 1 second, let us finish that. And here the number of rows and columns are available. Okay, so the test executed successfully on the Internet Explorer. My audience view is showing 100%, so that means that you all can see my screen as it is currently be. So is it clear to all of you? Yes, Bindu, now coming to your doubt, I have mentioned in the command the sessions to be taken as 10. Okay, by default, actually if you do not give it by default, it will be basically taking 5 sessions, but I have specifically mentioned it to take 10 sessions. It is not an important command flag to be set, but it is always good to set it. Okay, yeah. So right now we have registered the hub. So we have done 3 steps. We have registered our hub, we have started it, we checked it on the local host port 4444 whether our hub was running or not. We then went ahead and registered node for Firefox. We went ahead and registered node for Internet Explorer. We configured our test scripts to execute tests on both Firefox and Internet Explorer, and we have tested them individually by executing them one by one. Are all these steps clear to all of you? Okay, so now what we are going to do is, you might not be able to see my screen. I'll try to freeze at the right moment, but maybe in the recording it would be visible. I'm going to start execution of my test in parallel. That is, I'm going to open the Eclipse and start execution of one test and then the other. Okay, it is though a very small test, so it could be possible that one test finishes before the second test execution even starts, but nevertheless the agenda is to run both of them in parallel. Okay, so here is my Internet Explorer test. I have started its execution. Here is my Firefox test, and I have started this execution as well. Okay, so my Internet Explorer window is invoked. And my Firefox window is also invoked and closed very quickly. Okay, but on both the console windows, I will be able to see the iteration has done. Let me show you at the command prompt where it is much more visible. Here the test is again started. Okay, it has again fetched all these commands and the execution has happened in parallel. I can try running the tests again, where I will not ask the driver to be closed, so maybe then it would be visible to you all. So let me start the execution again. So I'm freezing my screen. You could see. So I've freezed my screen. I hope it is visible to you all that a Firefox instance and an Internet Explorer instance is invoked simultaneously, both on the same page, both trying to iterate through the web table, and the tests are indeed running in parallel. Okay, is this visible to all of you? Deepti? Okay, and in both of them I could see my test results being printed upon. Okay, and this time, no, you do not have to be sorry about it, just everyone could see it. I am again freezing my screen. You could see that both browser and both these windows are open. I have not asked it to close them, so both are open. And maybe you can then check the recording, Deepti. That's all I could say right now to you. Fine. So both my tests have run in parallel. So from all of this, is there any doubt? Then let me know. Okay, so if there are no more questions, let us take a short break of 5 minutes and I will resume the session in 5 minutes. During the break time, my screen will not be visible and my voice will be on mute. Thank you. Hello everyone, resuming the session. I hope my voice is audible to all of you. Okay. So we also how we could start our test and run them in parallel. We have seeing them in how we can execute them in sequential. So whenever we are starting our test and running them in parallel, there are few important things which we have to take care of. Okay, the very first thing is, ideally when you are going to run your test in parallel, the idea is mainly to perform a cross browser testing. Okay, that is one of the so why let us see reasons first why people do parallel test execution. So we have to perform a cross browser testing, okay, which is mainly done for the UI of your page, okay, and also the functionality, okay. So the first is because of cross browser testing, you have a test suite and you want to test on different browsers on different operating systems, and maybe there are almost 16 combinations which exist. So to save time, you perform your test and run them in parallel, okay. The second is we want to save time, okay. Save time as in we have a very big test suite which contains say 1 lakh flows, okay. We can divide them logically and start their execution on different nodes at the same time, okay. When I say divide them logically, that means that no tests are dependent on the test of the other group. By other group I mean the other node, okay. They are not dependent on them and they are not bothered what tests are running on node 1, because they just want to get executed in node 2 and then you have node 3 test to get executed, okay. So there are mainly these two reasons for which Selenium Grid is effectively used. If you have a very large test suite and you have less amount of time, then you can divide your test suite logically to be executed on different nodes at the same time, or to perform cross browser testing wherein you have multiple combinations of machines and operating systems, wherein for the same test suite which has to be tested upon, then you perform a cross browser testing. The third could also be when your application, although it could be a subset of any of them, but still stating it separately, when an application has a feature which supports multiple languages, okay, and you have to test. So your application itself has different versions, okay, different versions of your application exist and you have to test all these different versions. You have to run the same test suite on all the different versions. Suppose you have a travel site, okay, which has a English version, which has a French version, which has a German version, okay, which has a Hindi version, okay, all these different languages are available. Then your different version exists and you have one test suite, okay, which takes data as per language selected, okay, and you have to execute or test your all different versions of your website with the same test suite. Then also it is one of very big reasons you could use a Selenium Grid, because you would save lot of amount of time, okay. So practically you will come across these situations and one of few more where Selenium Grid would be used. Does it make sense to all of you? Any questions in here? Okay. So now there are some points which we have to careful upon when we are going to run our test in parallel. So for that, let me put it in a perspective. So we ran a test where we were not uh, doing any functionality on the page, right? We were just traversing through an UI element, which is a table. Okay, so if these two operations are done in parallel by the browser, there is no impact on the application or the test case. Fine. But suppose, say, manually two users are sitting and they both are trying to log into the application at the same time using the same login credentials, then for one of them it would fail, right? True, because there might be a minor second delay from the other person. So definitely for one of the people this is going to be a failure. So we have to be very careful when we are going to run and test in parallel. Only those tests are run in parallel which are independent of each other. Okay, it is a very important point to be noted, that otherwise your complete suite in parallel execution will fail, and to save more time you will end up consuming lot of amount of time. Always structure your test suites if you are running on different nodes in such a manner that tests in those test suites are independent of the other test suite which is running on a separate node. Okay, and no two tests are running in parallel which can conflict with each other or which are dependent on each other. Okay, so tests which if run together could cause a conflict or is dependent, like test suite can only be executed if test 1 is passed. Okay, such dependencies, if we have, they should be all aligned in one complete test suite and should be executed in one node. Okay, and you are not going to run two tests in parallel if they can cause conflict. So what do? You basically go ahead and you change your data just in case. So for example, I have a application wherein there are different versions of my application which I have to test. So for all different versions I'm going to use a different login credential. So that has to be very much considered, taken care of, that use different data sets for tests to be run in parallel. Okay, if conflict could occur. Okay, so because of data, if the conflict could occur, always use different data sets. Okay, for example, there could be a scenario wherein you are adding a product to a basket. Okay, now when you are added a product to a basket, the product is no longer visible, maybe it is finished in the stock or something like that. Okay, maybe you are working on a banking portal and you have made the account to have negative balance, but someone else is running the test on the same account wanting it to be positive balance. You might have come across these situations in your manual testing projects as well. I'm sure some of you must have encountered that. So always try to have your own data as a tester which is true for your own test suite. Okay, and then when you're changing it or when you're trying a different data set, ensure it is independent of the other test data which somebody else test could be using, or when you are putting a test on a grid. Okay, so these are some very important things. And basic automation, your start and end should be the same so that the other test could get executed. Okay, if both tests want the home page to be visible, then the first test should cleanly exit and return back to the home page so that the second test could get started. So my start and end should always be the same. Browsers, be very careful. Okay, the browser should not have any setting done which requires a manual intervention. For example, when you are running test, you might come across, do you want to remember password, or pop-up, do you want to unblock, or this browser is not your default browser, do you want to set, all these pop-ups could come and they require manual intervention. So always ensure that your browser is clean of all of it. Okay, when it runs, it just simply starts execution on the test which you wanted to without asking you all this extra stuff which has got nothing to do with your test automation. Sixth, it is always good in test automation to have a separate dedicated lab for the executions, okay, and these executions have to be done when it is crucial. When you are preparing your test cases, test suits, etc., you can do it on your own machine, okay, but when you are actually running it for a production kind of a thing, or for a management result they want to see, or your product has to be finally tested to be when to go to market, always have a separate dedicated test automation lab where you have these machines, these operating systems which are all, you know, sometimes they say that window itself wants to get upgraded, or your Mac wants to get upgraded, so all this thing is taken care of and it is maintained and taken care by separately, okay. Your test data should not be in conflicting state, your test should not be in conflicting states whenever you are running tests in parallel, okay. So does all this make sense to all of you? Okay, great. Any questions in here? Any thoughts you want to share here? So I am done for this session. If there is anything you would like, any one of you wants to discuss, then let me know. From tomorrow onwards, very advanced topics on Selenium WebDriver would get started. We would be starting with test automation frameworks. So far we are running test on JUnit. We would then move on to a better framework which is TestNG. Learn bits about TestNG, why TestNG in the first place, what is the benefit, then actually get that framework and run our test on that. Some of you have received the Internet Explorer test which I created, that was on TestNG, because of which some of you might have faced problem while executing. I will correct and share the JUnit version in the today's notes, okay, because for TestNG your system has to have TestNG first, only then the execution will happen, and then we would be creating our own framework. That would be very much interesting to do. Okay, thanks a lot everyone for your time, and sorry about today's internet issue. Hopefully it will get rectified soon. See you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye.